What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In this video today we're going to build a hashtag generator for Instagram posts in Python. So let us get right into it. Now, before we get started with the actual tutorial, I would like to mention that this video is sponsored by Mammoth AI, and I would not skip this part because it's very interesting what they're offering here. This is a platform that allows you to access all the leading generative AI models for just €10 or $10 a month. So if you go to their page, you can see here that you get all this here for $10 per month or €10 per month, depending on your location. And it offers also some additional features. So you can see you have access to Llama 3.1, 405 billion parameters. You have access to GPT-4o. They're also currently working on integrating GPT-o1. You have access to Claude 3.5, and you also have access to Dolly, Midjourney, Flux, the Pro model, not the Dev model. And you also have additional features where you can add files even with models that in the free version do not support files. So you can use Claude with files here in Mammoth AI, and you can also do easy reprompting. So for example, I have a thread here where I'm talking to Llama 3.1, and what I can do is I can reprompt the exact same message with, for example, Mistral. And this allows you to compare easily how well the models perform, what the quality of the responses is, and as I mentioned, you can use files with models that usually don't support files in Mammoth AI here. So they have this all-in-one suite where you can access the most important or the most highest performing models here inside of Mammoth AI for just $10 or €10 per month. So if you're interested, make sure you check out the link in the description down below. Now let us briefly take a look at the final result to know what's coming. This is going to be the final web application, generate hashtags. I can choose an image here. For example, this one, which is a thumbnail, my top 7 must-have Vim plugins. And what I can do now is I can click on generate, and based on this image, I'm going to get a couple of hashtags. For example, here I can choose Vim, Vim plugins, programming, maybe code, maybe programming life, maybe learning to code, maybe software engineering. And if I decide that I don't want to use one of the selected ones, I can also click it again to toggle it. And as you can see, I can do all of this. Then I can copy paste this into my Instagram post. This is what we're going to build in this video today. Alright, now we're going to split this video up into two sections. In the first section, we're going to code the raw process as a single Python script, and in the second section, we're going to build a Flask application around this. So we're going to use HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and so on to build an application that looks like the one in the preview. Now, for this video today, we're going to need an OpenAI API key because we're going to use the GPT-4o mini model, to be precise, the vision model, to generate hashtags. So we're going to pass an image along with a system prompt, and as a result, we're going to get hashtags that we can then process in our Python script or in our Flask application. So what you want to do is you want to go to platform.openai.com. You want to create an account if you don't have one. You want to log into your account, and you want to go to settings, to your profile, and then to user API keys. You can either use user API keys or project API keys. The important thing is you need a key that you can authenticate yourself with. So create a key, copy it, and then paste it into an environments file. How do you do that? You create a new file called .env, so .env, and in my case I already have one with a key in it, so I'm going to just call this one now .env2 for demonstration purposes. And in this file you want to create some names, so OpenAI underscore key, for example, equals quotation marks, and in here you want to put your OpenAI key, whatever it is, so copy paste it here. And the file needs to be called .env because we're going to load this file into our application and into our script using the .env package. Which brings us to the next point, which is installing the dependencies. We're going to need a couple of packages here. First of all, we want to install the package requests, which is what we're going to use to send the request to the OpenAI API. We want to also install python-.env, and we also want to install Flask, like this. Let me just double check if that is everything. I think that's it. So these are the packages that we need to install, and then we're going to just open up a new Python script, and we're going to call this one main.py. Now for the Flask application, we're going to use a different file, but here now what we want to do is we want to import base64, which is core Python, and we also want to import requests. And what we're going to do here now is we're going to pass an image. I have a bunch of images here as an example. These are just thumbnails for past videos I made. You can use whatever images you like, images of nature, images of animals, thumbnails, Instagram posts, whatever. but we're going to pass such an image, and based on that image, we're going to get hashtags. So in this case, we would get something like NVIDIA, CUDA, GPU, programming, whatever. Here we would get Vim, Linux, programming, whatever. And we're going to be able to choose from the hashtags then. So what we want to do here is we want to define a function called encode image. This function will take an image, or an image path to be precise, as input, and will return a base64 encoded string that we can then just pass as text to the request. So we're going to say with open image path in reading byte mode as f, and now we want to say return base64 b64 encode, and want to encode the image file, or actually the f dot read content. So we read the content of the file, and what we get then as a result is base64 encoded. So we want to decode it using UTF-8. So that is the encode function. And in order to now get the actual image, we're going to say that the image path, or actually I don't need to define this as a variable. Let's just say the base, let's say image base64 is equal to encode image, and we're going to use here images. Let's go with CUDA th png, so CUDA thumbnail png, and that is then going to be passed as a request to the API. Now this is going to cost money, so you can look up the pricing. It's very cheap. We're not going to spend almost any money here. So you can go to the pricing page of OpenAI. You can scroll down here to the GPT-4o mini, and you can set some resolution. I don't know, 1920 times 1080. That would be like half a cent. It would not be even 1 cent for this prompt. And then we also have the input token, so we can actually ask questions and so on, or provide a system prompt. This is also going to cost some money, but that's like almost nothing for what we're going to do here. So we're going to do the following. We're going to define the headers first. Headers is going to be a dictionary. We're going to say here content dash type is going to be equal to application /JSON. Let's just stay consistent with the single quotations here. So content type is going to be equal to that. And authorization now, this is where we're going to put our API key. Authorization is going to be a Bera token. We're going to say here Bera and then the API key. How do we get the API key? By loading it from the environment. How do we get it into the environment? By loading the .env file. So we're going to import here another package, which is going to be, we're actually going to say from .env import load.env, and also we want to import OS. And then at the beginning of my script, I'm going to call the load.env function, or load.env function. And here now, as an f string, I'm going to say that I want to get the OS get env and whatever you called your key. In my case, OpenAI underscore key is what I called the environment variable. So what you can also do if you want to is you can also just copy paste the key right here, but that's not necessarily a good way to do it if you actually want to use this in an application. So you actually want to do this in with the environment. All right, so let's go and define the payload. The payload is going to be another dictionary, and this dictionary will contain the model information and a list of messages. So for the model, we're going to do the following thing. We're going to target the GPT-4o-mini model and want to pass a message history. So messages is going to be a list, and this list will contain, first of all, a system prompt. So here we're going to have a dictionary. Role is going to be equal to system, and the content is going to be a list, and the list will contain here the dictionary, and this dictionary will have a type text, and the text will actually be the system prompt that is going to instruct the model to generate hashtags. So we're going to say here, you are a hashtag generation model for Instagram. When you get an image as input, now why is it not moving while I'm typing? So when you get an image as input, your response should always contain exactly, now what's this bug here? Why isn't this moving while I'm typing? Your response should always contain exactly 30 hashtags. Now you can adjust this. You can also, if you want to introduce a variable where you can change this, so where you can have an input field or an input variable where you can change the 30 to be something that is based on user input. So it should contain exactly 30 hashtags separated by commas, nothing else, and no additional text. So that is the system prompt. This prompt here defines what the system is going to do. This is like a high-level instruction. It's considered very important. The model will get an image and then it will process it based on the system prompt. So if you tell it you're a hashtag model, I want exactly 30 hashtags, nothing else, no additional text, that is going to be what the model does. It's going to provide 30 hashtags, no additional text, separated by commas. So that is a system prompt. And in addition to the system prompt, we now also want to add the actual image. So the actual image prompt from the user. For this, we're going to say role is equal to user, and the user will pass content again. The content is going to again be a list, and in this list, we're going to have a dictionary, and this dictionary will have the type, first of all, text, because we'll also want to have, I mean, this is optional, but you also want to have maybe a prompt like provide hashtags for the image. So here we're going to say the text is going to be equal to provide the hashtags for this image, colon, and then the second content piece here will be type image underscore URL, and the image underscore URL will be equal to a dictionary where the URL field is going to be equal to the following f-string, data, colon, image, slash. Now I'm not sure, I have my prepared code JPEG. I think that probably we should change this depending on what kind of image we get. Let me just try PNG here. And then we're going to use a semicolon and then base 64 semicolon and then the base 64 string. So the image base 64. And that's basically it. At the end, we also provide then the max token key value pair. Here we're going to allow for a maximum of 500 tokens just to have a limit here. And that is our payload. Now, to actually get now the hashtags, all we need to do is we need to send this as a request. So we're going to say response is equal to requests.post. We need to do a post request on https://API openai.com/v1/chat/completions. And here we're going to pass headers is equal to headers and JSON is equal to payload. And then finally, what we want to get is we want to get response.json. So if I didn't make any mistakes, that should be it. I can run this now and hopefully, no, we have a problem. Sorry about that. You can retry. Okay, so I think I found the two mistakes. One mistake is that here, this should not be a semicolon, but a comma. And the second one is that this is not max token, but max tokens. With these changes now, we should get hashtags as a result. And there you go, we get this dictionary as a result, we get an ID, an object, and then we also get choices. And the first element here is with index 0, message, role assistant, and the content is NVIDIA, CUDA, parallel computing, GPU, machine learning, data science, and so on. So we seem to be getting hashtags. So let's go ahead and say here, actually, let me run this again to see the structure. We get choices. We have to go for the first element, and then inside of that, we need to go to message. And then we need to go to content. And then we need to split that on comma. That should give us all the hashtags. And there you go. This is how we can generate hashtags based on an image. Now for the second part of this video, we're going to take this and turn it into a Flask application. So I'm going to create a new directory here. Let's call it Flask app. I'm going to move the .env file in there, and I'm going to create a new Python file called app.py, which is going to be our Flask application. Now for the Flask application, we're going to import from Flask the following things. Flask with a capital F, this is going to be our application. Render template is the function that we're going to use to render HTML files. Request is what we're going to use to get data from the request. And JSONify is what we're going to use to be able to return JSON data. In addition to that, we're again going to import OS. We're going to import base64. We're going to import requests. And of course, from .env, we're going to import load.env. All right. Now, what we want to do first is we want to load the API keys. So run load.env, and then we're going to define our application as a Flask instance here, passing __name __. And then we're also going to define a function that we already have, which is the encode image function. So we're going to just copy paste this here. And the idea now is to have a single endpoint, the index endpoint, and this endpoint is going to accept get and post requests. If we get a get request, we just return the basic HTML file with a form, with an upload button, and so on. And if we get a post request, we handle the image and we generate the hashtags, and then we render the same HTML file, but with different parameters and different variables. So I'm going to say here app.route is going to be /, and we're going to accept two methods here, get and post. And this is going to be the index function. Basically, we're going to say if request.method is equal to post, then we're going to do certain things, and otherwise we're going to return render template index HTML file. Now we don't have this file yet. It's going to be located in a directory called templates. So we can actually already create it here. Index HTML. But this will be the file containing our form. And this is also the file that we're going to render once we generate the hashtags, but we're going to pass additional parameters here. So what we want to do if we get a post request is we're going to assume that we got an image, and we're going to assume that the form was submitted. So we're going to say here image is going to be equal to request.files, and we want to get the file called image. Now it's important to understand that this request here is not the same as the requests package. This is a different one. We're using Flask request here, which is the request that is sent to us, either a get request or a post request. And from this we can get a file image. Hopefully this is what we have to define in the HTML file later on. But we're going to get a file image, and what we want to do is we want to save this image to a certain path. We can say maybe temp dot, actually I'm not sure, does it matter what file type I go with? Let's go with PNG, image save PNG. And what we want to do then is we want to say image base64 is going to be equal to encode image, and we're going to pass here temp.png. The rest is going to be basically the same as before, so we're going to just copy and paste all of that. That is going to be our basic generation logic here. So we have the headers, the payload, and so on. And I think we don't really need to change much. The only thing we need to change here is we need to handle the hashtags that we get. So we're going to say hashtags is going to be equal to response.json. Now I have one problem. Why is all of this not indented? It has to be all part of the post request. So we need to shift it to the right. Hashtags is going to be equal to JSON. Again, we get the choices. We get index 0. We get messages. We get content. And we split the content on commas. And what we want to do then is actually, let's say hashtags is going to be equal to h dot strip for h in hashtags so that we remove all the white spaces left and right. And then basically we're going to just say return render template, same file, index.html, but this time we're going to say hashtags is equal to hashtags, and the image base64 is going to be equal to image base64. These are two things that we're going to handle in the HTML file. If they're present, we're going to show them. Otherwise, we're going to just render the basic HTML file. And of course, the last thing we need for the application itself is we need to say if name is equal to main, basically our section here, our run section here, is going to be app run. And for development purposes here, debug equals true. And that's it basically for the backend code and the Python code. The rest is going to be HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. And what we're going to do in this video is we're going to code the HTML structure. We're going to provide the JavaScript functionality, but we're not going to code the CSS live in this video. I'm going to copy paste it, and you can also copy paste it. I will provide a link to the code in the description down below. But basically the CSS is AI generated. I didn't write it myself, because it's just used to make it look more professional. It doesn't have any functionality, so if you don't want to add styling, don't add styling, but I'm going to add here in the HTML code certain classes and IDs which are used for styling, so don't be confused by that. Some of them are also used in the JavaScript code for functionality, but you don't have to add styling if you don't want to, and if you want to, you can also just copy paste the CSS from the GitHub repository in the comment, not in the comment, in the description down below. So let us get started by, first of all, changing the title here to Instagram hashtag generator. And then we're also going to add a heading, which is going to say generate hashtags. And then we're going to have a form. And this form will have the action / because it's going to be sending a request to the index endpoint. We're going to provide a method equal to post. And important here, we also need an encoding type, multi-part form data, because we're going to submit a file, an image file here. And for styling, we're going to add the ID image-form. All right. So in this form now, we're going to have two things. One, an input of type file, so an image upload basically, and two, a button to submit it. So we're going to say here input type image. Name is going to be equal to, input type file. Name is going to be equal to image. And it's going to accept the following files, image / asterisk. So all kind of image file types. And the ID here is going to be equal to image-input. And this is going to be a required field like this. And then we're also going to have a button of type submit. This button will have the class submit-button, and we're going to have generate as a text here. So that is our basic input form. This is where we're going to upload the image, and this is where we're going to submit the image. Now, we also want to have a section where we can preview the image before we submit it and after we submit it. So I want to have here another div box. This one will have the ID image-preview-container. And here I want to have a heading of size 2, preview image. And I want to show here an image. The ID of this image here, this is now relevant also for JavaScript. The ID of the image is going to be image-preview. The source of the image is going to be a little bit more complicated, because what we're going to do here is we're going to say, using the Jinja templating engine, we're going to say in curly brackets with %, if request dot files. So if we have any files in the request, what we're going to do is we're going to say data image and then /png semicolon base64 comma, basically what we did in the code before. And here now we're going to have the image underscore base64. So that is basically if the image was submitted. If we have an image here, we're going to display it. So basically if we have this here, we're going to show the image as a preview. Otherwise, if we don't have this, we're going to just have an empty string here, and we're going to close this off with an endif. And finally, also the alternative text will be no image uploaded. That is basically our image preview here. Now we need to add some JavaScript to actually make this work. We're going to take a look at this in a second. But before that, I also want to have the section where I display all the hashtags. So I'm going to have these curly brackets here. If hashtags was submitted. So if we have hashtags, what we're going to do is we want to display them as buttons. And these buttons should be toggle buttons. So I want to be able to select and deselect a hashtag. So here we're going to provide a div. The idea of this div is going to be hashtags-section. And here we're going to have a heading of size 2, hashtags, and, or actually let's call this select hashtags. And what we want to do here is we want to say, we want to have another container, hashtag container. This is again for styling purposes. Added by ChatGPT basically. And what we want to do here now, the functionality is important for hashtag in hashtags. What we want to do is we want to display them as buttons. So end4, and in here we want to have button of class equal to hashtag button, again for the styling, hashtag BTN. And the ID now, this is not just relevant for styling, this is relevant for JavaScript. We want to have here hashtag dash, and then we want to use these curly brackets here, loop.index. We want to have different IDs for all these buttons. And on click, if we click that button, we want to call a JavaScript function that we don't have yet, and it's going to be called toggle hashtag. And the toggle hashtag function will take two parameters. You can see it already suggested here because I have the prepared code somewhere. But basically we want to pass the hashtag itself and we want to pass the index. So we want to pass, first of all, hashtag.strip, or actually we don't need to do .strip because we already did it here. So just hashtag. And the second thing is loop.index also. So that is it. Let me just see if that makes sense. Button class ID hashtag loop index, on click toggle hashtag loop index. And in here now we need the text of the button, and the text of the button or for the button will be the hashtag again. So just hashtag like this. All right, so that should all be okay. And the last thing I need here is a text area where I can display the selected hashtags. So I'm going to say here heading of size 2, selected hashtags, and I'm going to have a text area with the ID selected hashtags. We're going to have 4 rows, 50 columns. And this is going to be read only because we don't want to be writing in here. We just want to copy the hashtags that were selected. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add the JavaScript code, which is going to make the image preview and the toggling possible. So I'm going to say here script type text JavaScript. And we're going to define, first of all, the toggle hashtag function, which is going to take as a parameter the hashtag and the index. And what we're going to do basically here is we're going to either add or remove the hashtag depending on whether it's part of the list or not, or part of the text area or not. So we're going to say const text area is going to be equal to document dot get element by ID. Now the ID of the text area is selected hashtags. And then we also want to have the button. So the button with the index that this function was called with. So document get element by ID. And what we want here is we want to have hashtag, but then also dash, dollar, and we use curly brackets here, index, to get the hashtag button with the respective index that this function was called with, or called on. And then we're going to see, we're going to get the individual hashtags by saying let's select it. So the hashtags that are already part of the text area, are going to be text area dot values dot or value dot split on white space, and then we're going to map here age is going to be age dot trim. I'm not sure if that's necessary, but let's do it. And then we're going to filter the empty elements here, so age, and then we're going to say if selected, so if in the list of selected hashtags we already have the hashtag that is being toggled here, we're going to remove it from the text area, otherwise we're going to add it. So if selected includes, I need to double check with my code all the time because I'm really not coding JavaScript that often, so I have to constantly double check the function names. So if selected includes hashtag, then of course we want to remove it. And I think in JavaScript we actually need parentheses for this. So if the hashtag is already included, we want to remove it. So we're going to say selected is equal to selected filter, and we want to remove the hashtag. So we're going to say keep the hashtags that are not equal to hashtag. Also use semicolons here. And then we're going to say button dot class list. So the button that was located here is going to, when we select it, it's going to get a new class selected for CSS styling purposes, and it's going to be removed when we deselect it. So the class list, we want to remove from it the selected class. And otherwise what we want to do, so basically if the hashtag is not included already in the list, we want to add it. And this can be done with selected push hashtag. And then just button.classList add selected. So the opposite essentially. All right, and then what we want to do is we want to set the value of the text area equal to that selected list. So selected join on whitespace again. That's the basic idea of toggling. So again, we locate the text area, the button, we select all, or we get the list of all the selected hashtags. If the hashtag that we want to toggle is in it, we're going to remove it. We're going to also remove the selected class for styling from the button. Otherwise, we're going to add it, and we're going to add the class so that the button is selected. And whatever we do at the end, we want to join all the selected hashtags on white spaces and set this equal to the, or set this as the value of the text area. So that is the toggle hashtag. And the second function now is, or actually it's not a function really, it's more like an event. When we upload an image, we want to actually change it. We want to actually change the preview. So we're going to say here document get element by ID, and we want to have the image here, which was it, input type file. So image input here, image input. We want to add an event listener here. On change, we want to do certain things. On change, we want to call a function that takes event as a parameter. And in here, we want to do the following. We want to say that the image preview is going to be equal to document.getElementById image preview. So this is the image tag here. And the file is equal to event target files 0. So on change, what's going to change about the input is obviously the file is going to change. We get the file here by getting the target file's first element from the event, which is passed to the function here, to the change event. And then we say if there is a file, we're going to say reader is equal to new file reader. Reader on load is going to be equal to a function which takes an event again. And we're going to say that the image preview, which is our image tag here, we're going to set the source equal to e target result. So we're setting the source attribute of the image tag, which is this one here. So if we have posted, we're going to get it from the post request. Otherwise, we get it here from the change event. We set this equal to eTargetResult. And in the end, we want to read and display the message. So reader.read as data URL, the file. And if we don't have this, so if we don't have a file here, we're just going to say image preview source is going to be equal to an empty string. And that should be it. So I think that this JavaScript functionality here is enough. Now, the only thing we need to do is we need to add a style sheet. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to say link rel style sheet, and the href is going to be URL4. We're going to go to the static directory. And the file name is going to be style.css. Again, I'm going to just copy paste this now. You can also do the same from the prepared code or from the code that you will find in the GitHub repository down below. And for this now, we're going to create a new directory, static. I'm going to create a new file, which I'm going to call style.css. And then I'm going to just go ahead, copy paste all of the stuff here or copy all of the stuff here, paste it in here. This is the CSS stuff. This is just styling. And I think if I didn't make any mistakes now, this should work. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to open it up in the browser. We do have, it doesn't seem exactly like what I was expecting, but let's see if it works. I'm going to get here the CUDA thumbnail again, generate, and as a result, I get an error, messages. Is it message? Probably it's message, right? Yeah, it's message, not messages. So we need to go down here. We need to change that to message. I'm gonna just restart the application, go again, load the same image, generate. And there you go. I get the hashtags. I can click on them. They're added to the text area. I can click on them again to remove them from the text area. And yeah, this seems to work. So basically, if I now go and pick, let's see if it works with JPEG as well. Generate. Yeah, it works because it's converted to PNG. So yeah, this is how you can build a simple hashtag generation tool in Python. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video and bye.